So after Bitcoin lost the $116,800 support level, it fell down to 112, which is what we were expecting. We knew that there would be support around there. And that resulted in a bounce that didn't quite take Bitcoin anywhere. Bitcoin didn't really hit its resistance levels up here. It kind of, I mean, like, you're really making soft arguments, but you could say that there was a little bit of resistance here at about, 116K flat that Bitcoin found. But I think for the most part, it's clear this rally wasn't spectacular, and we know why, by the way. We were covering this extensively on this YouTube channel, so shout out to those of you that are subscribed, smashing up the likes. Really do appreciate all your support. In this market here, for the S&P 500, we did see the beginning of a correction, which is something that we were definitely strongly expecting on this YouTube channel. It's something that we kind of knew was coming because of, just the fact that this market has basically rallied up pretty much non-stop for quite some time, and eventually that's going to have to cool off a little bit, and it certainly looks like that's what initiated toward the end of last week. So there was a little bit of a kind of continuation up after that dump, but we're straight back to kind of moving down right now. Look, this could obviously go a few ways. We've already had some sort of a correction. The S&P doesn't need to have super steep corrections. This is a 3.3% move down. It's the biggest drop so far since basically this over here, which was also about 3.3%. So that's enough, right? Like, this pullback was enough for the S&P 500 not only to blast through its all-time high, but to get, a decent, little bit above that all-time high. It managed to get 5% above that all-time high as well, and it was all off the back of this super tiny reversal here. So, this could definitely be enough for the S&P 500, but at the same time, it's like I'm saying, guys, like, we're so close to that previous all-time high that, to me, it just kind of looks like the market might want to come down and grab that. It certainly looks like Bitcoin is telling that story. I mean, by the way, take a look at some of the key indicators that we like to look. I mean, this rejection of the 4-hour EMA, this is literally cleaner than an XRP holder's browsing history, right before they pass their phone off to somebody else. I mean, this is a fucking clean rejection, ladies and gents, and really sends a very, very clear message that some of the things that we were potentially relying on before are now actually working against us, which, I don't think it's particularly surprising. I mean, the Ichimoku clouds have been predicting resistance as well, so if we do manage to get a little bit of a rise up from here now, let's say we punch in a kind of higher high and a higher low, do something a little bit like this, that's gonna, just lead straight into another resistance zone there. So I don't know. I don't really like the look of Bitcoin right now. I'm hearing a lot of people being bullish and feeling optimistic about it. Obviously there's the tariff news in a couple of days, all this stuff that, a bunch of other people care about. You guys know me. I don't really care about any of that stuff at all. I just look at the charts. The charts don't lie. People lie. News lies, all that stuff. But charts don't. Not too much anyway. So, for me, this is kind of good enough. This is what I like to kind of look at. And, I'm not seeing it, ladies and gents, especially considering that, the only time Bitcoin has ever traded above 112K in its entire life is here. I'm not seeing strength come off this level, like, we're already kind of close to falling below it. And I was never expecting this support level to be super strong. I said this a million times to you guys on live streams and so on. And of course, we're not holding particularly well with that in mind. So I certainly think that if this low does get swept, we're probably coming a little bit lower. Now, as for where, that's obviously a slightly more difficult question, but we've outlined a bunch of support levels here on this chart. I believe it's on this chart right here. And the levels basically, obviously, they start off at about 112. The next key level I've got drawn out here is 107. I'm hearing rumbles of 109 as well, which would basically be... I don't have... Bear with, guys. Yep, never mind. Okay. It would basically be 109 somewhere around over here, which, like, I don't know if that's gonna... I don't know. It could be good. I'm not really holding my breath for that level, to be honest. But I know that that's something that people are going to be kind of watching out for in this market. And then, below that, obviously, we've got 107, which I think is going to be a little bit more interesting. And this level also lines up with the S&P 500's previous all-time highs. So, I think that kind of, matches up quite well. 107, that would be 5K lower than where we bottomed. So it would be another, fairly significant dip. And, if you kind of want to visualize what that would look like, we're basically looking at something, more or less like this, as far as support. And if that's going to be the bottom, then, we can say that, we might end up doing something a little bit like that afterwards. You know what I mean? So that's something that we just watch out for. We'll see how that evolves. There's a lot of ifs wrapped up in there, so we just have to kind of see how the market evolves to make judgments on that. But that's where I would expect support at this stage in the market. And I think on the daily, we've got a ton of support on the daily in these ranges, obviously a little bit lower as well. Daily EMA ribbon is still being held. We are still holding the daily EMA ribbon, but yeah, it's not looking good. It's looking like we might dip below it. Just from that particular, kind of perspective. But I mean, hey, like I say, it's not over until it's over. We haven't dropped below that support level yet, and sometimes we drop below it, and it's just a fake out as well. So, it's not something I'm holding my breath for, but I don't want to jump the gun too much either. It's just on the smaller time frames, I think the story is much clearer. You know what I mean? Like slow rise up followed by a quick drop down. You're sending a pretty clear message at that stage within a downtrend already as well. And after also, I think most importantly, more important than anything I've said so far, after messing up such a beautiful consolidation range, right? I mean, this was a absolutely phenomenal kind of continuation pattern here that really could have and should have pumped to the upside. Many patterns like this have done that, but this one didn't. And again, that sends a really clear message about who's in control of the market right now, which is, of course, that I believe the bears are. Now, we are seeing Bitcoin dominance drop down a little bit. It's back in this ascending triangle, so we'll see if this is in play. If it is in play, then we could rise up here, got to drop down. Either way, I think it's still pointing up. And of course, this has been, kind of paving the way for Ethereum to continue to consolidate in what I described for you earlier as by far the best case scenario for Ethereum. This is the best thing that could have happened to Ethereum as far as, its price action against Bitcoin. It's held this low very, very well, and now it's finding resistance at its resistance level. This is really good. This is really healthy. And if it can just keep doing this until the market gets into a happier place, it's going to be very easy for a huge explosion to the upside. And this will probably, if it does explode to the upside, it's probably going to make a lot of people FOMO in pretty quickly because, shit, like you've already bottomed out. It's already, kind of had a small pullback. It's now trading at a higher resistance level. If it pumps up from here, like how much more confirmation do you need? I think a lot of people are going to start kind of FOMOing into the market if something like that does end up happening. Here's Solana. It's holding, whatever. It's got a support level down here. I don't have too much faith in this level, but, ultimately, I don't even think it's a Solana question. I think it's, again, a Bitcoin question, a Bitcoin dominance question, and, just a general kind of market liquidity question, right? If money is being taken out of crypto, like it's being taken out of everything, according to, the S&P 500 showing that to us very clearly, just that it's not a lot. Let's be very clear. We're not seeing anything crazy, but, if it is what we're seeing, then, I don't really think that coins like Solana, XRP, whatever, I don't think they're going to be able to hold on to the levels that they're at. Like this chart to me, doesn't scream strength whatsoever. I don't know. I could be reading this wrong. I know a lot of other people can have different opinions on this, but I was telling you guys if we lose this level, we're probably dropping quite a bit below $3, and that happened. We bounced off nearly where I drew my support level. We've hit the $3. Kind of macro, round number resistance. I don't know, ladies and gents. I feel like this is kind of, it's at the mercy of Bitcoin. That's the bottom line, right? Like I get a lot of requests to look at altcoins, but for the most part, there's no point because these coins just move, according to what, according to the beat, to the pulse of Bitcoin. For the most part, that'll change later on, when the market gets very euphoric and very, very excited. That will change, and altcoins will be leading the charge, but we're not there yet. We're clearly not there yet. So yeah, I think we just wait. I think we see what the S&P 500 wants to do with itself. It looks like Bitcoin probably wants to sweep that low. If I'm wrong, if Bitcoin doesn't sweep that low, then obviously, yeah, it's probably going to have to rely on the support at 112 again. Maybe we get another bounce. Really, what we need to do with these bounces is we need to get up here into the very low 117K range. And ideally, we need to actually get above this level and flip it for support. That would be the number one thing that kind of gets us back in play, right? Ultimately, we had this, really nice kind of sideways range here. And if we can kind of recover this level, back test it for support, and then come up, ideally, we need to get above 120 as well, of course. That will, basically, I think anything above 120 and we're golden again. Like this is, 130K, 140K target territory. Really, really exciting stuff. But, below 117, it's not looking good. I mean, this is resistance now. We're building more resistance as we speak in this range. We're gonna have to do something quick. to kind of turn this around, or we could just wait. And this daily Ichimoku cloud, I think if Bitcoin can kind of just hold this level for a little bit, and if the S&P 500 can sort itself out, this could turn into a kind of rocket launch pad for Bitcoin, which it has done many times before. Let me see if I can find you an example. Like, here's an example where we kind of fell down to a level where the Ichimoku was already printing, but then we revisited it again a little bit later, and that's what resulted in a big launch, So how that would look for Bitcoin now, again, if I just take my favorite pattern here and just kind of show you a little bit about kind of what that could look like, we might be looking at something a little bit like that, you know what I mean? So that would be pretty nice. It would be pretty volatile if that happened, which is also, again, really nice as a trader. And speaking of volatility, obviously the best exchanges in the game are going to be linked in the description down below. Bybit allows you to trade traditional finance. They're by far the best in the space already anyway. So really, really cool. You can trade Tesla stock and all that good stuff on Bybit. Levex, phenomenal exchange in terms of everything that you're used to. Great liquidity, proof of reserves, 1-to-1, all that beautiful stuff. But the team is also putting exclusive chart updates in there for you with setups that we're watching. So super, super cool stuff. Check all of that stuff out if you're not from a restricted region. But bringing it back to the video, not looking bad. It's not looking bad. It's looking like standard procedure. I think a lot of people are reading into this too deeply, probably because they think that the more analysis they do, the more correct they will be, or whatever else there is going in their heads. Very, very typical. We tend to bring these attitudes from school or from corporate life into crypto. It doesn't work. It's usually quite a bit more simple than that. And, putting more hours in will not typically result in making more money. Not unless you're in the learning phases and you're kind of learning stuff for the first time. So, yeah, not much I can say. Pretty calm, pretty stable. I like it. I like what I'm seeing. I want to see pullbacks. You know what I mean? I want to see pullbacks. Pullbacks allow us to go higher for longer. And they might even give us some better opportunities in the altcoin market. And who's saying no to more profit? You know what I mean? Like, we obviously know, or I obviously feel, that Bitcoin's probably going to get substantially higher than 120K in this bull market. So why the hell would I not try and accumulate coins as they drop a little bit lower on the red days, right? Buying on red days inside of bull markets is, believe it or not, going to be one of the better strategies that you might come across. So there you go, ladies and gents. Hope you've enjoyed this one. Another quick one. Smash up those likes if you have. You know what to do. And I'll see you all in the next one. Cheers.